The New York Knicks and Phoenix Suns have expressed interest in trading for Gary Trent Jr., so we'll break down that report as well as the Toronto Raptors bench bouncing back in a game against the Charlotte Hornets, as well as the three-point shots raining down for the Toronto Raptors. So we'll give a quick recap of last night's game, and another Toronto Raptors prospect has been plucked away from the Raptors 905. So lots of stuff to break down, all of that and more in this video. So let's dive in the first topic discussion. The first thing we're taking a look at is the Knicks and the Suns being interested in Gary Trent Jr. in a potential trade. As we all know, it's been brought up in a bunch of our videos that Gary Trent Jr. is apparently widely available. He's available via trade ahead of this year's trade deadline and is the most likely guy on the Toronto Raptors to get moved after this roller coaster of a season we've had so far. And a lot of Raptors fans don't want to see it happen, but a lot of other NBA teams do, as it's a bunch of teams have already seemingly been thrown into the mix in terms of acquiring Gary Trent Jr., but a report has come out today that indicates the New York Knicks as well as the Phoenix Suns have officially expressed interest. There are two teams that have a level of interest in Trent ahead of this year's trade deadline. Now, this report is coming from Brett Siegel, and he basically went on to say that the asking price for Toronto and Trent has not been revealed, and rival executives believe the Raptors will be aiming at immediate draft capital given their recent struggles this season. So according to Brett Siegel, we had a report come out yesterday that I wasn't sure if it was valid or not. I just brought it in at the end of the Gary Trent Jr. trade discussions, but we don't know what the Raptors are currently asking for in return for Gary Trent Jr. in terms of it being leaked or what's out there on the open market. So it doesn't seem like that thing that got myself as well as other Raptors fans in a tizzy about us just looking for a late first round pick, but it does seem like the Raptors are interested in draft capital. He wanted to talk about the Knicks specifically, saying that the New York is a team that is very much looking to upgrade their roster ahead of the deadline, and any combination of Evan Fournier, Derrick Rose, and Cam Reddish and Emmanuel Quickley could be included in a potential deal for the Knicks to add a player of Gary Trent Jr.'s caliber. There's a push within the Knicks front office, though, to keep both Rose and Quickley if possible, sources say. So, you know, the Toronto Raptors, a lot of Raptors fans saying if we do make a deal with the New York Knicks, they want to see Emmanuel Quickley coming back, as he would give us some depth at that point guard position, which Malachi Flynn has been on a roller coaster of a season himself. You know, for a stretch there, we're shooting like 40+% from the three-point line, and then is going like 5 games without hitting one. So, you know, he hasn't been that consistent. Delano Banton is actually in the G League right now, and Nick Nurse refuses to play Jeff Doughton. So Emmanuel Quickley could be a guard that we'll discuss coming back, but the Knicks are reluctant to give up him and Rose. But went on to say that should the Knicks aggressively pursue Trent Jr., it would not be a surprise to see the Raptors show interest in young talent like Quickley, as I just mentioned, and who has a handful, and the Knicks also have a handful of first-round assets over the next couple of years that they can leverage to upgrade their roster ahead of this season's trade deadline. And if you guys don't remember during last year's draft, they traded their lottery pick, the New York Knicks did, to acquire 3 first-round picks. So they're kind of loaded in terms of first-round draft capital. So the Raptors do make a deal with the Knicks, it could get some decent draft capital back. They're definitely a trading partner that could fit what the public is sort of saying about the Raptors looking for in potential trade deadline. But they also talked about the Phoenix Suns, who have been struggling immensely lately with Devin Booker going down. And we'll talk about a player they signed later in this video. But, you know, the Suns, they have guys like Cam Johnson. They have guys like, Cam Johnson, Cam Payne, lots of Cams on that team. But, you know, they have some draft capital themselves. I don't think we'll get DeAndre Ayton just straight up in a Gary Trent Jr. trade, but they have some pieces. But looking at Trent's stats so far this season, just throwing them up on the screen there now, right? 19 points per game, 2 rebounds, 1.5 assists, shooting 37% from the three-point line. That's steadily increasing, right? He's going to be a guy, even though he's a free agent this summer, I'd want the Toronto Raptors to get some serious value back, and not a bunch of multiple late first round picks if that's the draft capital we're getting in return. Emmanuel Quickley would be a player that does intrigue me, but the 3-point shooting is something that's a little bit sketchy with him. 12 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 33% behind the 3-point arc. Not horrible, but not a natural shooter, but he plays defense, he's quick. Given his name, no pun intended, but he's a solid guard there for the New York Knicks. Kind of fits the Raptors timeline, could be cool off the bench. And one player that I know a lot of Raptors fans would just like to have on for how cool it would be to have a Derrick Rose jersey in a Toronto Derrick Rose in a Toronto. Oh well, I'm skipping him. But also Cam Reddish is a guy that 8 points per game, 1.6 rebounds, 1 assist per night. The 3-point percentage for a guy that was coming to the league touted as a shooter hasn't been that great, but he has had flashes of being great, but really hasn't been consistent there for the New York Knicks, playing his way out of the rotation. The Knicks, a report came out yesterday, are looking for 2 second-round picks from him, so wouldn't be a bad guy to take a flyer on, but the guy I just sort of made a little rant. I made a little thing, got cut off by Cam Reddish popping up instead. But D Rose, who again stat-wise not too great, 6 points per game, 2 assists, but this would solely be a culture move, just to have a moment in time where we have Derrick Rose in as a Toronto Raptor. It'd be a cool sight to see. But if we were to make a deal with the New York Knicks or Phoenix Suns, let me know what potential offers you'd like to see down in the comment section below. But the Toronto Raptors might force Masai Ujiri's hand in not making any moves, as we're on a little win streak, folks. A 2-game win streak, and 3-point shooting and bench helped the Toronto Raptors to a win last night. Now, unfortunately, couldn't put out a live following the game. I was exhausted, one of the most tired I've ever been, and I usually fight through the sleepiness and stuff, trying to get those lives out, but a bit of a headache. Reacting to the game here today, and the Toronto Raptors end up getting a W against the Charlotte Hornets, which was a nice win, and we had some solid performances. I mean, Pascal Siakam, 28, 7 and 8. He's just been dominant this season. He's unstoppable. There wasn't a lot of defense played in this game against the Hornets, which might be cause for concern for a lot of Toronto Raptors fans, especially in that first half where we were giving up bucket after bucket to the Charlotte Hornets, who are one of the league's worst offenses. But Siakam was picking them apart on the other side, which helped us bring us to a W. Once again, OG Anunoby was amazing. He was raining down threes at 22 points, went 6 of 7 from the 3-point line, and played solid defense as usual, just on ball. Right, Scotty Barnes put up, not the greatest stat line, but doing his thing in terms of being a guy that's getting the Scotty Barnes award. Maybe he should be renamed the Draymond Green award for last night, because it was a Draymond Green-esque stat line, and he produced. Like, again, we want Scotty to be more aggressive. Chris Boucher came out on his YouTube channel and basically said that everyone, the coaches, the players are all telling Scotty to be more aggressive, and only taken 5 shots last night. You would have liked to see him be more in attack mode, but he was facilitating for others. Not a horrible game for Scotty Barnes in any sense of the word. Fred VanVleet wasn't that efficient. I won't get into any Fred VanVleet hate on this video. He had his assists, put up a very similar line to Scotty Barnes, but Gary Trent Jr. also put down some buckets. Offensively, the Raptors didn't really have any issues against the Charlotte Hornets defense, but the big thing, the encouraging thing, if you look at the percentages from last night, and OG was a big help to this, the bench was a big help to this, but 46% from the 3-point line, and that's what the Toronto Raptors. They've been struggling with the entire season. They came out hot from behind the 3-point line starting off the year, won a bunch of games, got very cold, and then we dug ourselves the hole that we're in. But the past couple outings, we've been getting some production from behind the 3-point line, and Fred VanVleet put it best, saying, on the Raptors season high 23 tonight, hey man, let's have a party. And honestly, in celebration for Fred VanVleet's we'll throw a party out here on the Raptors Digest for raining some threes down. We got to celebrate for moments like that, but it's not just the threes that was exciting in last night's outing. It was really the thing we should be holding a party for was, 1, the bench gave us some production, and 2, we didn't have to run through our starters straight into the ground 100 minutes a night in order to get a W, even against a bad team like the Charlotte Hornets. As Precious Achuiwa, I'm pressing the wrong buttons left, right, and center here, but Chris Boucher, Precious Achuiwa, Christain Koloko all came off the bench and had a serious impact on the game. Juancho Hernangomez played some solid defense. Malachi Flynn, had a few assists there, but he's struggling immensely in terms of getting that shot to go in the basket. But, having guys coming off the bench, it's going to be essential if we do want any hope of turning the season around, whether a trade's made or not. So, shout out all those guys. I get the propaganda drum up. This is definitely the best game we saw from Precious Achuiwa since returning from injury. But the Toronto Raptors, they're making a lot of people that were sleeping on their team, turn their heads just a little bit. I'm not saying things are perfect right now, but they're playing better basketball. We've faced up against, Portland Trailblazers team that has been struggling big time in recent weeks, playing against the Charlotte Hornets, who are overtly tanking with Miles Bridges being out for who knows how long, right? Their second best player from last year not having impact. So it's nothing to get too crazy about, but we lost a couple of these games, a few weeks ago. So things are heading in the right direction a little bit. And, if you're interested in making some money off the Toronto Raptors' success, you have high hopes for them winning some games, definitely check out the CoolBet app. They're a sportsbook that's regulated in Ontario, available all across Canada, available pretty well everywhere, but you can bet on any Toronto Raptors game, any NBA game, really any sport in general. If you're interested in betting on some cool bets, pretty well got it, and they got some great odds. And if you're a Toronto Raptors fan, you use our link to sign up. You can join the Cool Betters Discord and get boosted odds, right? More bang for your buck for the dollars you're putting down on the Toronto Raptors or against the Toronto Raptors. Got some cool lines coming up for ahead of the trade deadline, so definitely sign up for CoolBet using the link down in the description. It helps us out big time. Shout out to CoolBet for sponsoring the channel. But the next thing we're talking about, next thing we're discussing, some minor news. Well, this one's just a fun little article coming from Bleacher Report, as they love to bring up some topics regarding the Toronto Raptors' potential deals that could go down. And they named 3 potential trade targets we could go after. Now, 2 of them are familiar names, familiar players. But basically, they said Zach LaVine, Miles Turner, and Luke Kennard are 3 players the Toronto Raptors should be interested in. No team is interesting heading into the deadline. Are they buyers? Are they sellers? Will they make a major move? The Raptors should start at the top, checking the availability of LaVine to help inject some life into the offense, falling 19th overall this season. Toronto has the picks and some win-now talent to pull off a deal for LaVine, and the Chicago Bulls have been lifeless this season as well. Toronto makes the big man lineup even more massive and brings some much-needed floor spacing at the center position. I'd argue that the big value that Miles Turner provides is rim protection, just having that size, having that length, but the three-point shooting does help. And then they went on to say that a bigger fish can't be caught. A dead-eye shooter like Luke Kennard will be at least improve the three-point attack that ranks 29th overall in the NBA. And Kennard's a guy we've discussed to death, Miles Turner and Zach LaVine on this channel, but Kennard's a dude that would be an interesting pickup. We know the LA Clippers love acquiring Raptors players, so a deal could definitely go down on that front. But Luke Kennard's a guy, looking at his stats this season, 8 points, 2 rebounds, but 46% from behind the three-point line would be very encouraging, would be a very cool ad. Let me know in the comment section below, out of those Bleacher Report names, which of those 3 guys you'd like to see the Toronto Raptors potentially make a deal for. Reports have come out the Raptors aren't really in win now mode, but could acquire, if they shake things up, try to do something weird. Luke Kennard would be a cool guy I'd like to see in the Raptors organization. But the next thing we're talking about is the Raptors losing another prospect. And this is unfortunate, as we have a lot of talent, abundance of talent on the 905, and they're getting picked up. Not unfortunate for the Raptors, unfortunate for the Raptors, not unfortunate for the guy. But news came out that I got the wrong button popping up here. Yeah, the Phoenix Suns are signing G League Raptors 905 guard Saben Lee to a 10-day contract. He last played 87 games over the past 3 years and spent time with the Sixers this season. So Saben Lee is a guy that played for the Pistons for a while and has really thrived with the Raptors 905 over the course of this season. Right, you look at the stats that are popping up. Right, was a guy that was pretty solid there for the Detroit Pistons for a couple years. Got legitimate minutes. 5 points per game over the past couple years. Couple games with the Sixers early on, but for the Raptors 905, averaging 22 points per night, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, and with the confusing situation we currently have on the go with the Toronto Raptors point guard position, could have been a guy that had an impact maybe at some point, but signing with the Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker going out, they're looking for any sort of solution they could get, so wishing the best for Saben Lee, but after losing Gary Payton II, seeing Raptors 905 guys get picked up, especially to contenders, to solid teams, makes me bat an eye. It makes me have a look at them, see if the Toronto Raptors are missing any talent. Once Reggie Perry gets picked up, that's when I'm going to be pretty fired up as a Toronto Raptors fan. But folks, you guys are the best for making this far. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Definitely check out the CoolBet app using the link down in the description. You guys are the best for signing up, for watching the end of this video. I'm signing out. Cheers.